Yokota Air Base, is a United States Air Force base in the city of Fussa, one of 26 cities in the Tama Area, or western Tokyo. The base houses 14,000 personnel. The base occupies a total area of 136,413 m2 and has a 3,353 ma, 61 m runway. Among its facilities are the Broadcast Center for the American Forces Network Tokyo Radio Service and a detachment of Pacific Air Forces Band of the Pacific and the headquarters of United States Forces Japan. Units. The host unit at Yokota is the 374th Airlift Wing and is currently used for airlift missions throughout East Asia. The 374th includes 4 groups: operations, mission support, maintenance and medical. Each group manages a various number of squadrons in order to carry out the wing's mission. 374th Operations Group. The 374th Operations Group maintains a forward presence by providing rapid responsive movement of personnel, equipment and operational support in the Asia-Pacific region. The group consists of 374th Operations Support Squadron, 36th Airlift Squadron, 459th Airlift Squadron. It is not uncommon to see a KC-135 Stratotanker, C-5, KC-10 Extender, DC-8, C-17, L-100, civilian charter airline aircraft and cargo 747s on military charters on the transient aircraft ramp. 374th Maintenance Group. The 374th Maintenance Group maintains C-130H-1, C-12 and UH-1N aircraft supporting intra-theater airlift and distinguished visitor transport for Pacific Air Forces. 374th Mission Support Group. The 374th Mission Support Group is responsible to the 374th Airlift Wing Commander for command, control and direction of support activities to 374 AW and 32 tenant units to include Headquarters U.S. Forces Japan and 5th Air Force. 374th Medical Group. The 374th Medical Group ensures medical readiness of 374 AW, 5AF, and U.S. Forces Japan personnel. They also maintain 64 War Reserve materiel projects, including the USAF's largest patient movement item inventory. Associate Tenant Units. U.S. Forces, Japan, a non-operational, politico-military unit that serves as the USPACOM front for U.S.-Japanese military discussions. 5th Air Force, the air component to USFJ. 730th Air Mobility Squadron, Air Force Band of the Pacific Asia, Stars and Stripes, American Forces Network, U.S. Coast Guard activities Far East. Yokota Cadet Squadron, Civil Air Patrol. The Civil Air Patrol's Yokota Cadet Squadron conducts operations at Yokota Air Base. Amc Passenger Terminal. The newly renovated Air Mobility Command Passenger Terminal is on the main part of the base next to the flight line. It is a 5 to 7 minute walk from the Kanto Lodge and offers space available flights to various destinations in PACAF such as Alaska, Guam, Hawaii, Korea, Okinawa, Singapore, as well as the contiguous United States. History. The facility which houses Yokota Air Base was originally constructed by the Imperial Japanese Army in 1940 as Tama Airfield, and used as a flight test center. During World War II, Yokota became the center of Japanese Army Air Force's flight test activities and the base was the site of the first meeting between Japanese and Italian wartime allies. Tama was first identified by United States military forces in November 1944 by a 3D reconnaissance squadron F-13 Superfortress photo reconnaissance aircraft, flying from Tinian in the Marianas. It was identified as being associated with a nearby Musashino Nakajima aircraft manufacturing plant. Along with the Sho Air Base to the northwest, and Takakawa Air Base to the east, it was compared to the aircraft development complex of the USAAF Wright-Patterson Field in Ohio. According to the USAAF intelligence at the time, the 3 bases conducted all IJA flight testing. In the spring of 1945, XXI Bomber Command attacked the base 8 times along with the aircraft manufacturing plant, but each time heavy clouds forced the bombers to attack secondary targets. The Nakajima plant was finally attacked in April 1945. but the Tama airfield never was bombed. Post-war years. With the end of hostilities and the Japanese surrender in September 1945, a detachment of the United States Army 1st Cavalry Division arrived at the base on September 4. The airfield's buildings were largely intact, and some 280 of the IJA's most modern aircraft were discovered in hangars. The 1st Cav named the facility Fussa Army Airfield, then renamed it Yokota Army Airfield at the end of September. The initial USAAF use for the base was for airlift operations when the 2D Combat Cargo Group arrived with 4 C-47 Skytrain squadrons. When the old runway deteriorated under heavy usage, the runway was repaired and Yokota supported operations of the Douglas A-26 Invader-equipped 3D Bombardment Group by August 1946. Additional construction during the 1940s and 1950s was completed and the base reached its current size around 1960. On the occasion of extension, the course of Hachiko Line and National Highway Route 16 was changed, and Itsukeki Highway was divided. During the initial post-war occupation years, Yokota hosted the following known USAAF units: 20th Combat Mapping Group Liberator, 8th Reconnaissance Group Liberator, 71st Reconnaissance Group, RB-17, RB-29, RF-51, RF-61, and RF-80. These units performed photographic reconnaissance and mapping of Japan and South Korea. 6th Night Fighter Squadron, inactivated and personnel, mission and equipment transferred to 339th Fighter Squadron with F-82 Fahrenheit per gram twin Mustangs at Nagoya Abe, Japan. 3D Emergency Rescue Squadron, flew modified B-17G bombers equipped under their bellies with a 27-foot boat that could be dropped by parachute and which contained enough food, water, and clothing for 12 survivors to last for about 20 days in the ocean. Korean War. During the Korean War, Yokota was used for combat missions over North and South Korea. Known units based there were, fighter units, 27th Fighter Escort Wing, flew F-84E Thunderjets on armed reconnaissance, interdiction, fighter escort, and close air support missions. 35th Fighter Interceptor Wing, flew Lockheed F-80CS on air defense missions. 339th Fighter All-Weather Squadron, attached to 35th Fighter Interceptor Wing and flew F-82 Fahrenheit per gram twin Mustang missions over South Korea during the first few months of hostilities. Bombardment units, 325th, 326th, 327th Bombardment Squadrons, deployed squadrons from Spokane AAFLD, Washington. Flew B-29 bombing missions over North Korea. 98th Bombardment Wing, Group, then wing deployed from Spokane AAFLD, Washington. Flew B-29 bombing missions over North Korea. 2 After arriving at Yokota, the squadrons a bomb mission against marshalling yards at Pyongyang, North Korea. The 98th Berg engaged primarily in interdiction of enemy communication centers but also supported UN ground forces. Interdiction targets included marshalling yards, oil centers, rail facilities, bridges, roads, troop concentrations, airfields, and military installations. Reconnaissance units, 31st Strategic Reconnaissance Squadron, photographic, flew combat missions to provide FEAF Bomber Command with target and bomb damage assessment photography. 91st Strategic Reconnaissance Squadron, medium, photographic, assigned to 407th Strategic Fighter Wing's C-91st Intelligence Squadron, absorbed the personnel and resources of the 31st Strategic Reconnaissance Squadron in Japan. Using RB-29, RB-45, RB-50 and RB-36 aircraft, it performed target and bomb damage assessment photo and visual reconnaissance for FEAF Bomber Command, flew other special photographic missions, and conducted electronic ferret reconnaissance to determine frequency, location, and other characteristics of enemy ground radar. The squadron also performed shipping surveillance over the Sea of Japan near the Siberian coast and leaflet drops over North Korea. Beginning in late 1952, rotating air crews of the Philippine-based 581st Air Resupply and Communications Wing augmented the 91st SRS in flying leaflet missions. 512th Bombardment Squadron, operated the BWB-29 aircraft and flew weather reconnaissance missions. 56th Weather Reconnaissance Squadron, replaced the 512th Bomb Squadron in their weather reconnaissance mission. They operated WB-29, WB-50, WC-135B and RB-57 aircraft used to sample airborne nuclear debris as well as weather patterns in the Pacific. In fact, the 56th was first the 56th Strategic Recon Squadron. It became the 56th WRS later. And, for several years the only aircraft were modified B-29s. About 1956 the B-29s began to be replaced with B-50s, and the unit continued to fly 2 missions a day, plus flying into any typhoons in the South Pacific. In 1956 the 56th lost a plane coming back from a mission, as it crashed into a hill not far from the base. All on board were killed. Cold War equals, with the hostilities in Korea ending in 1953, Yokota Air Base returned to a peacetime Cold War status. 2 major wings were stationed at the base during the 1950s, the 67th Reconnaissance Wing flying RF-80s, RF-84s and lastly RF-101s. The 35th Fighter Interceptor Wing flew F-86 Sabres from the base. A Tactical Air Command Air Refueling Unit, the 421st Air Refueling Squadron flew KB-29s, and later KB-50JS from Yokota from 1953-65. All of these units were under the command of the 41st Air Division. The 35th TFW was reassigned in 1957 and the 67th TRW in 1960. Worldwide DoD budget restrictions in the late 1950s caused several PACAF wings based in Japan to be reassigned or inactivated. These tactical fighter units were replaced by the Martin B-57 equipped 3rd Bombardment Wing where it trained in bombardment, reconnaissance and aerial refueling operations. The Air Defense Command 40th Fighter Interceptor Squadron equipped with a Convair F-102 Delta Dagger stood in air defense mission. The 6102D Air Base Wing assumed host unit status for the base, being replaced by the 441st Combat Support Group in 1964. The Vietnam War resulted in an increased combat and airlift aircraft presence at the base. Yokota was used for ferrying B-52s to Southeast Asia along with being a base for U.S.-based deployed F-105 tactical fighter squadrons. The 610th Military Airlift Support Squadron was created by Military Airlift Command to service the large increase in transiting airlift. The 65th Military Airlift Support Group was a headquarters organization for MAC airlift support squadrons in the Pacific and Far East. The F-105 squadrons deployed frequently to USAF-operated bases in Thailand to fly combat missions over North and South Vietnam, and to South Korea for alert missions. Initially the fighter squadrons were under the command of the 41st Air Division, shortly after reassigned to the 6,441st Tactical Fighter Wing, activated in April 1965 to control the F-105 squadrons after their parent organization, the 8th Tactical Fighter Wing, relocated to George Air Force Base, California, to become a McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom IA unit. With the reassignment of the 347th Fighter Wing to Yokota in 1968, the 347th assumed responsibility for all tactical fighters until its reassignment to Kunsan AB, South Korea, in March 1971. In 1971, all combat squadrons were transferred to Kadena and Missouri Air Base and Yokota became a non-flying station hosted by the 475th Air Base Wing. The 475th had no numbered flying squadrons, but operated a few T-39 Sabreliners and UH-1 helicopters, along with supporting transient MAC cargo and passenger aircraft. Assigned flying squadrons returned to Yokota in 1975 when the 345th Tactical Airlift Squadron was assigned with its C-130s. Headquarters, 5th Air Force was transferred to Yokota on November 11, 1974, being transferred from Fussa UAS, Japan. Post-Cold War in 2005, the Japanese government announced that the headquarters of the Japan Air Self-Defense Force would be moved to Yokota. The Tokyo metropolitan government has advocated opening Yokota to civilian flights as a method of relieving traffic at Haneda and Narita Airport. Governor Shintaro Ishihara raised the joint-use proposal during the 2003 gubernatorial election, and Governor Naoki Inoue made comments in 2013 that suggested joint use as a possible solution to cope with visitor demand during the 2020 Summer Olympics in Tokyo. In April 2010, Colonel Frank Eich, the United States Air Force commander of base, banned screenings of the film The Cove at the base theater. A base spokesman said that The Cove was banned because using a base venue to display the film could be seen as an endorsement of the film. The spokesman added, "We have a lot of issues with Japan. And anything done on an American base would be seen as an approval of that event." Personnel and aircraft from the base assisted with Operation Tomodachi following and during the March 2011 Tohoku earthquake and tsunami and Fukushima I nuclear accidents. The base also served as an important hub for airlifted assistance during the disaster recovery efforts. During the crisis, around 600 American family members voluntarily departed the base for locations outside Japan. Lawsuits. Resistance to the airbase immediately followed the end of U.S. occupation. Gravel used in the construction of the airfields was taken from the Tama River, lowering the riverbed and affecting the traditional irrigation system, which had provided water to local communities since the early Edo period. The base also caused great stress to nearby inhabitants in a number of other ways, such as fuel leaks and spills that contaminated groundwater and well water. Foul odors and fires, deafening noise pollution and repeated plane crashes. Although local leaders succeeded in bringing about the return of land that had been taken for a base in Takakawa, at Yokota the number of departures and landings per year reached 20,000. Pilot training that simulated landing jets on aircraft carriers was also held several times each year, often throughout the night. Because such training, together with the engine testing and daily flights, created a level of noise pollution that local inhabitants found unbearable, numerous lawsuits were filed against the Japanese and U.S. governments, calling for a halt in flights and compensation for damages caused by the noise pollution. At present, a small fraction of the compensation demanded for past damages appears likely to be awarded. A OE Yokota Air Base pollution lawsuit number 9. A filed on December 12, 2012 and a OE New Yokota Air Base pollution lawsuit number 2, a filed on March 26, 2013, are currently being disputed. Major commands to which assigned: 1st Cavalry Division, United States Army Forces Pacific, Pacific Air Command U.S. Army, Far East Air Forces, Pacific Air Forces. Base Operating Units Major USAF units Yokota has provided support for fighter, bomber, and military airlift operations, hosting B-26 Invader, BRB-29 Superfortress, PF-51 Mustang, KB-50J aerial tankers, F-94 Starfire, BRB-57 Canberra, C-54 Skymaster, F-86D Sabre, F-102 Delta Dagger, McDonnell Douglas F-4D Phantom II, F-100 Super Sabre, F-105 Thunderchief, C-5 Galaxy, C-141 Starlifter, and C-130 Hercules units. Amenities. The 374th Force Support Squadron The 374th Force Support Squadron is responsible for providing an enhanced quality of life, facilities and programs for 11,000 military, civilian and dependents as well as 150,000 transient personnel per year. The 374th Force Support Squadron provides manpower and personal support, membership clubs, child development, youth programs, food service, lodging, sports fitness, recreation leisure activities, comprehensive readiness program, marketing publicity, linen exchange, and mortuary operations for Yokota AB. Friendship Festival Each year in August, Yokota Air Base opens the gates to the Japanese community for its annual Friendship Festival. For 2 days, local residents can learn about Yokota Air Base. Food and events are provided for all ages. Roughly 200,000 visitors show up each year, although non-Japanese visitors may be turned away from the gates for security reasons. For those 2 days, visitors are able to examine many types of aircraft and even tour some of the large cargo planes from inside. Education The Department of Defense Education Activity operates schools at Yokota for children of personnel assigned to the base. Joan K. Mendel Elementary School, Yokota West Elementary School, Yokota Middle School. School dedication ceremony took place on June 13, 2000. YMS initial year began with only grades 7 and 8, with the upstairs specialty wing housing high school classes until construction modifications to YHS were completed. Class officially began August 2000. Yokota High School, higher educational opportunities for those in the military and working for the Department of Defense, as well as for family members at Yokota, are available through several contracted academic institutions. For example, the Asian Division of University of Maryland University College. Tama Hills Recreation Area The Tama Hills Recreation Area comprises about one half of the 500-acre Tama Services Division Annex, the other half being the Tama Hills Golf Course. Notable for the base was the setting of Almost Transparent Blue, a best-selling novel written by Ryo Murakami and published in 1976, as well as the anime Blood the Last Vampire and the short film Baby Blue from Genius Party, directed by Shinichiro Watanabe. Yokota Air Base and its surrounding area were the central location for the 2006 movie Sugar and Spice. It is also the setting of parts of the Yokota Officers Club, a novel by Sarah Bird. The base is also the birthplace of U.S. Marine Captain, former UFC fighter and Fox Sports analyst Brian Stan. References. This article incorporates public domain material from websites or documents of the Air Force Historical Research Agency. Some of the text in this article was taken from pages on the Yokota Air Base website, which as a work of the U.S. government is presumed to be a public domain resource. That information was supplemented by external links, official website,